I'd love to talk about your new role. So there's all kinds of stuff that we're going to cover. Only about 20 minutes, but I think we can pack a lot into that 20 minutes. So I just have to start by saying you sent me this review from England yesterday, which was note perfect. I was like, this review, what was the name of the publication?
Like Bebop, UK Bebop or something.
I had to read it again just as I was driving. I pulled it up on my phone just to read it again because it literally hits every single note, just the descriptions, but just like it zoned in on your skill, facility, love for bossa nova, and which shines through. And I was just like, how does this person know this?
I was pretty taken with what was written because many of the reviews that I've seen to date, let's just say, borrow heavily from the press release. And so what I would see is, and I'm not complaining, I'm loving that these reviews are coming in. And it's really nice to get like a very unique take on something. And he just zoned in, and
So
was
beautiful.
exciting.
So let's take it back. When did you, I mean, I love the story that you like were an usher at the Hollywood Bowl, and that's how you were introduced to jazz. Tell us about that.
Well, so I went to Immaculate Heart, which is a local high school here in the Hollywood Hills. And one of the options for summer work was being an usher at the Hollywood Bowl, and I wanted a summer job. And so I thought, oh, this sounds interesting. This sounds cool. I'd been to the bowl a couple of times before with my mom. We used to sell raffle tickets for the friends at the Hollywood Bowl, fundraising. So the fundraising started early on in my life. And I would see these people, these ushers, and I thought, oh, they get paid to listen to the music, and at that time I was about 15, so I couldn't get, or at least I didn't think I could. Well, because I later learned that the youngsters, people under a certain age, were sent home early, and the rest of us could stay through the end of the show. But so back to I want to say my junior year summer, I applied and became an usher, and it is to this day the greatest job I've ever had, because basically you get there, you are given your post for the day or the week or the month, and you go and you stand there and you're happy to greet people and take them to their seats. And then as soon as the lights go down, you get to watch the show, whoever it is, multiple times sometimes. I mean, there were weekends where Elton John was there, and I remember liking Elton John because my older sister really loved him. And so I would hear his music, but I didn't realize how much of it I actually knew. And I was like, oh, I like this person. This is cool. But it really just, it introduced me to all kinds of music. I had taken piano lessons growing up, so I had that sort of classical foundation. And then all of a sudden, all the Great American Songbook just came to life on stage at the Hollywood Bowl. And I was there to, witness it and listen to all these songs. And I was like, this is pretty amazing. And that's really what started me think, well, there are lots of things, but that was the major influence.
And so I'm a bit older than you and probably lived through I was a little kid living through the first wave of like Jobim and the bossa nova wave in the late 60s. And so I mean, it's kind of, I guess I got it from my dad or whatever. I'm just like, how did you discover bossa nova? Seriously, though, you're really good at that. How did you discover bossa nova? So you discovered jazz at the Hollywood Bowl. Is that also the same period of time when you discovered bossa nova?
I mean, I probably heard it there. I don't have a specific memory. I may have seen Sergio Mendes at that time. I've definitely seen him since. I guess my first bossa nova song was The Girl from Ipanema, and I did not know what it was called. But whenever I was somewhere at a cocktail party or something and I heard it, I would like stop. There it is. There's that song. And really, the first, so now we're in the 90s, and there was an indie movie out called Next Stop Wonderland. And it's with Hope Davis, and oh gosh, what's that woman's name? Holland plays her mother. Anyway, this great movie, and the entire soundtrack is bossa nova.
Wow.
And the story, she's a nurse living in Boston, and the story goes that her deceased father really loved that music and played it for her. And so it's kind of the soundtrack of her life. And after I saw that movie, I was like, I have to get this soundtrack. I mean, this girl from Ipanema's on it. And so that's when I realized, oh, not only do I love this music, but I can sing this music. And
Yeah.
it feels so like
Yeah.
such a good fit, you know?
Mhm.
So
I just came back from Brazil for the first time. I've always wanted to go. I didn't go to Rio. I was in a remote area in the Amazon called Belém.
okay.
And but I did get like 3 days in Sao Paulo, and I just loved the people. I will definitely be back. But I was in my hotel room and I turned on my Bossa playlist. And I was dancing around the hotel room and I was just like, if Natalie could see me.
Natalie would love to be there. Not yet. That's what I say. I will.
Yes, you will. That's so great. I have so many like Brazil, next to Brazil kind of stories. I won't bore you with them, but the bottom line is they love music. They love
Yeah.
music of all kinds, and they discover it and they embrace it and they love the artists and everything. So something tells me there's a, if not a tour, at least a tour date in your future, in Brazil, and some kind of
I would,
tribute to Sergio Mendes or something like that.
and they are such genuine, vibrant. I mean, I'm not explaining it well. Like, I don't want to say they're musical people. I mean, another completely unrelated to music. When the World Cup was here in '94, I was volunteer, little bright, shiny new volunteer. And what an exciting time to be in LA, which the Olympics is going to be like that as well. But
Yeah.
to just have people from every corner of the world in the Rose Bowl excited about these games. And I just remember the Brazilians and I love them. I did not know, I hadn't heard of any of the stuff that they did. And I think that's when I might have picked up Mashkinada or things like that.
Yes.
It's just the rhythms, it just like it just brings you to life, you know.
I saw that you liked my post on LinkedIn today.
I
And
did.
I always kind of try to lean in with, I'm not just saying this just because, this woman is my client. I'm saying it because, many of the jazz greats were, in my orbit when I was growing up. Of course, I didn't know who they were. It was just uncle this and aunt that. And it was only till I went to college when I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And people go, oh, so and so. And I'm like, yeah. I remember I was probably about 13. My dad took me to Carnegie Hall. We sat in the front row and watched Sarah Vaughan. And, so my uncle, Eddie Jones, played with Count Basie for 10 years.
I
So
remember you.
he knew all these people. So, she was sassy to my daddy. So we went
Yeah.
backstage afterwards and I got, I hadn't seen her since I was a little kid. But, I remember after some gig, probably was a Newport Jazz Festival, we had gone up to Small's Paradise in Harlem and I fell asleep in somebody's lap eating chicken and waffles. But, having all this music, like, just constantly around me, you learn what's good and what's just average. And our dear friend, Marilyn Batchelor, connected us. And I was like, well, Marilyn knows her stuff. This girl must be good. First listen, I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Scotty Barnhart, who is the current, band director for the Count Basie Orchestra, was just like kismet. I was like, okay, there's something more that meets the eye here.
Yeah.
And I found myself listening to your record, and that's with most good records. You always, upon repeated listen, you hear different things. You learn different things about the artists and their approach to the songs and stuff like that. I just really, really think for a debut album, it's really, really good. So I think that everybody should be looking forward to more from Miss Natalie Jacob, right?
Yes. Yes. I'm looking forward to more. I want to see what's going to happen next. I already have other ideas for other albums. So
That's what's up. So in addition to being entered in Best Jazz Vocal Album, you're also entered in Best Jazz Performance for East of the Sun and West of the Moon. And then Scotty is up for arrangement for What a Little Moonlight Can Do. What is it about these songs that kind of elevates them to the next level for you?
well, with East of the Sun and West of the Moon, I've heard many, many versions. The first one I heard was Diana Krall. I love Diana Krall. I'm a big fan. And I feel heavily influenced by her style. Oh, that's by Brooks Bowman. And oh, look at once you like do a deep dive, like, oh, look at all these other people that have done this and who was the first person. And I wanted to, when I was talking to Tamir Hendelman about the arrangements, I really wanted to make it my own. And I had Diana Krall's version in my head. And what he did with that song, starting with what he calls an Afro rhythm
Mhm.
in 6/8, and then switching it to a swing, 4/4 when you get to the meat of the song, I guess, to the bridge. I mean, it's amazing, and it swings,
Yeah.
and the work that Carlitos Del Puerto did on that with his bass, just starting just with him. I love the acoustic bass. It is
Yeah.
my favorite instrument, and often the acoustic bass player that goes along with it. That happens as well. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just gonna put it out into the universe because it's true. There's no shame in the game. This is me.
Love it. Oh my God. Confessions on Impact.
Yeah. So, often the gentlemen who played it, I mean, and the ladies are lovely as well. My interest is in the gentlemen, but it's just like, yeah. So the sound and his rhythm and it just like flies. And I feel like I'm floating on that. And I had listened to Diana's version for so long and then started to listen to my approach is I feel like many other artists probably you just listen to many songs and then you make it your own. And that I'm at the top of my range in that song and at the bottom of my range in that song. And it feels good. It's like, everybody's in the pocket and it's just
Yeah. It's really, really good.
yeah.
I'm just, I mean, I don't want to fanboy, but the truth is, it's so great to have someone who's done the work, studied the repertoire, and isn't, you know, copycatting someone else. You're a legitimate first class song stylist in your own right, and that's so awesome and wonderful because you put your own imprint on this repertoire, and I just think it's great. One of the things that I did want to talk to you about, this is all news to me because you've only mentioned it once or twice, but I know that you're really proud of the fact that you've been appointed to the board of this music organization in the Bay Area. Tell us a little bit about that because I think it's important to give back, but even more than that, um, you know, your own story about how you came to music kind of resonates with this, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very new. Like in fact, my orientation is this weekend.
Oh,
But I was one of three new board members. They actually the timing was you were talking about Kismet was just so serendipitous because as I'm having this conversation with you about, my new album and how I want to make an impact and make a difference, all of a sudden this email shows up in my email box. We're looking for board members. And I thought, oh, well, I'm new to the organization, but why not? And how I found the organization, it's called Living Jazz. It's based in Oakland. And how I found it is a really good friend of mine had been telling me for years, you must go to Jazz Camp West. You must go to Jazz Camp West. I'm like, and so finally last year I went and it was unbelievable. It was my happy place. Like people talk about Disneyland being their happy place, and I do enjoy Disneyland, but this was like Disneyland for jazz musicians.
mm,
And so we are in the forest at a YMCA campground for a week. And all you do there is any kind of jazz musician or instrument you can think of. There is vocal, there is piano, there is guitar, there is brass, there is winds, there's percussion, there's drums, there's dance, there's it's jazz, there's funk, there's blues, there's Latin music. So, and these incredible instructors that come back every year. Some of them are, located in the Bay Area and the Pacific Northwest, but really basically from all over the country. And some names that I hadn't heard before. And then like after I was done with jazz camp and started to look, I was like, oh, these are like big people from New York, brother. And I had the most incredible experience because talking about fangirl, and she knows it, I'm sure she does. Sarah Gazar, one of my very favorite contemporary jazz vocalists. And I got to do a vocal intensive with her and 9 other students every single day from 9 to 12. We got instruction with Sarah Gazaric, and it was incredible. I was in another group that we did Brazilian, singing in Portuguese. So that's getting a little better. And then just meeting all these wonderful people jamming. There were jams, there were faculty concerts, there were all kinds of celebrations. So it was heaven, heaven, heaven. And I went back this year and started to learn more, so every year they have a big MLK tribute, and that raises money for their programs in the schools. And then I learned, oh, they have this really large outreach to children in the Bay Area and underserved communities. So K through 12. And I go to this concert and there's a stage full of little children. If you can imagine, it's singing Sir Duke. It was the most amazing thing. And they got it, and they're sassy, and they're just like having a good time. And so I started to like fall more and more in love with this organization. And they have a teenage version of Jazz Camp West, which is Jam Camp West. And they're just, they've been around for, this is their 40th year. And they're transitioning from sort of a small, almost a mom and pop kind of thing to a bigger organization with a larger staff. And so it's just a really exciting time to be involved with them. And their jazz education goes really deep. It's not, once a year during Black History Month that they do assemblies. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we definitely need that, but they go really deep and they have continuing education. And to me, I was like, yes, this is it. So excited about that, and excited to take part and to bring my fundraising background to their development committee and wherever else they would like me to be.
And I recently joined the board of an organization, and I don't have the elevator pitch down yet either, but I just know I'm passionate about cross-cultural exchange. This is something between Miami's high school students and African students from Botswana. And I'm so excited about it. And of course, in my role as a governor of the Recording Academy, I do stuff with the mentorship program and interns and stuff. It's very important to me to pour back into the youth who are, wanting to be in this space, either on the business side or even as artists. So in that regard, we're certainly simpatico. So I applaud you for being engaged in that space, and congratulations on your new role. But I think the role that most of our viewers are going to be interested in is your role as the ascendant queen of jazz.
I like the sound of that.
The ascendant queen of jazz. I don't know, I just kind of made that up. But just kind of bringing it back to the album Sooner or Later, when I was like cutting the little spot that'll launch in the next day or so, I had to go back and coach the voiceover artist, and I was just like, there's something about this title that you kind of have to lean into it a little bit. And so that's in the end when she says, check her out sooner or later. I had to have to go back and have her recut that, because she just kind of flew through it. I was like, no, you gotta lean into it, lean into it a little bit.
There's multi-level messages there.
Yes, exactly. And so for me, that was kind of like a homage to your story that, you're a grown woman doing your first album, and it's just like, you got to it. And it's such a message to young people: stick with it, learn your craft, show your commitment to the craft, and the universe brings you opportunities to showcase that craft. You had known Scotty for a while before you guys did this album, right?
We met in 2010.
There you go. Exactly.
A while ago.
I'm going to have to do a quick pause. Apologies. Someone's at my door. But we're going to wrap. You look fine. If they, sometimes I will say, oh, take your glasses off the glare, whatever. And sometimes when I do this, I have a ring light, and Allison says I look like an alien.
Well, I do know that people will be like, you don't look like the person on the album cover. And it's like, yes, this is one of my many looks.
Okay,
definitely. This is the hair look.
Right. And those of us who wear glasses know how that is.
Yes, all right. We have choices.
and choices are good. And you've given us so many choices on this album. So that's everything I wanted to cover. You have anything did you want to share with the people?
Did you want me? I realized I didn't talk about what a little moonlight can do. Would you like me to say something about that since we are?
Sure,
Yeah.
we can cut it in.
Yeah.
So what a little, again, is your idea to talk about Sky. What a Little Moonlight Can Do is entered in the best arrangement category. And,
Yeah.
you know, I know when I first listened to the record, I was like, this is special. And so when we were kind of deciding what we were going to do, I was like, it just kind of stood up for me.
Mhm.
How about yourself?
Definitely, definitely. So a little background to that song. I was the featured vocalist in a couple of Scotty's quintet when he was here in LA. We played it down at the World Stage. And as we were talking about songs, you know, I have my go-to list. And he's like, "You should think about what a little moonlight can do." And I was like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. But then I kind of got into it and I was like, okay, this is cool. And you know, again, it's become one of my favorite songs. I love how we feature Clayton Cameron on that, you know, because he is the brush master. And
Yes.
he's just like, just it's hot, you know, it's just boom, boom. And of course, I really loved the fact that the tempo was doubled, but I didn't have to be doubled, right? Like they would have to do that, but I could still sing over that at a normal tempo. I mean, that one just flies. And it's so
It's
fun.
it's
It's
fun. It's so much, it's ear candy.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I love about it. I was like, oh yeah, okay, you've tickled my eardrums with this.
So that's why it's like it's placed where it was in the, you know, in the middle of the album. You kind of like, you know, build up to it and then not down necessarily, but then it's like you hit
Shift
that
the energy. Mhm.
exactly. But yeah, we
Well,
definitely wanted to spotlight Clayton because he is such an incredible drummer. And,
mhm.
I think we succeeded. It
So,
definitely felt like the Runaway Train song, though. I remember we did that. It was like the last song. We recorded for 2 days and it was the last song. And I just remember that I jumbled the words at one point and I still have one of the rough cuts, and I'm not going to say what I said at the end, you know, because Carlitos was like, "Oh, that was it, we got it." My words were so that was definitely a little area that got punched
I got you.
later. Just you know, fix up the lyrics a little bit. It's fun, you know. It just gives you so much energy.
You have the Montana Art Walk this weekend. I'm excited to see and get feedback and hear how people receive you this weekend. You're really on a roll, and I love how you're being embraced. And like I said at the top, you know, this review from the UK just kind of nailed it. And I'm really glad that people are receiving what you're doing with such open arms. It's really a pleasure to be part of this story. So
Thank
with
you.
that, that's all I got.
Thank
And yeah, we gotta hop on the phone with a couple other people, but
you.
this has
Okay.
been wonderful spending time with you today.
Like
And this will be up and out, and you'll see in a couple days.
awesome. It's so good to see you. I miss you.
I
Like
miss you
we have
too.
our texts and everything, but I always feel so much warmth and good energy when I see you. So it's nice to have this little touch point. So
Thank you.
you too, Allison. I know you're there.
I'm here. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody, for joining us for Impact today with Medium Marvin, Thornell Jones, and jazz singer extraordinaire, the beautiful, lovely, and talented Natalie Jacobs, the girl next door. Thank you and good night.
Good night.